Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Guthrie.
No fancy guests or anything today. It's
us.
Straight talk.
Straight talk. Hey, it's Friday the 13th.
We need more catchphrases. Yeah, what?
It's Friday the 13th.
Oh, is it?
You didn't realize that?
No, I think I saw something that it was going to be Friday the 13th, or that was a thing. I didn't.
You do know what Friday the 13th
It was Friday,
means, right?
and I knew it was the 13th, but it didn't come together.
Well, this might not be universal. Is this universal? We should maybe mention what that means.
I'll do some research.
People listening to from other places that say, "What the heck? Who cares?"
Are you a spiritual person?
Spiritual in what sense?
Like, do you believe in ghosts?
That's not really how I would define spiritual. But why are you asking this question? Oh, spirits. Spiritual is different than spirits. You understand that,
Is it, though?
Right? It is. It is. Because there are lots of spiritual people, meaning that they believe in God and all of that, who would say that either there are no such thing as ghosts, or, you don't even want to think about ghosts, or, yeah.
So what would you call someone who believes in the supernatural?
Someone who believes
the occult.
In this... I would call them someone who believes in the supernatural and the occult.
That's dumb.
Anyway, that is not... We're going off on tangents because that's not our topic today. Although it's kind of related to our topic.
It's not related at all, but I'm carrying it through to the bitter end.
Okay.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Do we really want to have this conversation right now?
You can just say yes or no.
Sometimes I think yes, and sometimes I think no.
So you're not... So Friday the 13th is very similar. It's a superstitious
Friday the
thing
13th does not
with like fate and luck.
No, Friday the 13th does not faze me at all. No,
okay.
I'm not. I have no special. There's no special or scary significance to it being Friday the 13th, in my opinion. How about you?
Seeing as I didn't even know what day. Remember a couple days ago, like the world was supposed to end.
Yeah, I think that was
And people were like, I bet you most people kind of woke up and be like, well, I guess it didn't happen. I didn't even, it was like the next day, and I was like, oh, I guess that thing happened that I don't care about. So, I'm not exactly.
You're not. We're both people of science.
Oh my god. Okay. I have a game for you.
Oh, okay, what? We will get to the topic at hand eventually, won't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you're a scientist.
I like to think of myself as a scientist, yes.
So you've come across your fair share of Roman and Greek technical terms.
Maybe. Why?
Skeuomorphism.
Whatever. Okay, yes.
There's a scientific name for the fear of the number 13.
Ooh. I knew there was a scientific name.
Yes. And
but I don't know what
the
name. You want to see if I can get it? No. 13-ophobia.
Really?
13-ophobia.
It's got to be at least it's Latin.
No, what is it?
Okay.
What is it?
Triskaidekaphobia.
Oh, I knew I had the last
Which I think is just Latin for 13. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Greek.
See, it's 13-ophobia in another language.
What? That's so... Okay. The superstition. Yeah. This is great. Yeah. I'm really glad we did this. This is so much more fascinating than whatever we were going to talk about.
It is not.
Okay. The superstition around the Friday the 13th arises basically in the Middle Ages. So it's a Western European thing. So
Western European. So
well, because Asia has different... So in China, right, the number 4 is... I'm sure I'm skewering this whole thing, but it's very close to the word for death. So it's
so
considered
13 is not a problem in some cultures. Okay, yes. Middle Ages.
Where 6 is lucky. Yeah, but... So whereas in Europe it's more 13 and 7.
Yeah.
Kind of for some reason we're scared of odd prime numbers. So originating from the story of Jesus' Last Supper and crucifixion, in which there were 13 individuals present in the upper room. on the
really?
13th of Nisan Maudi Thursday, the
Really?
night before his death on Good Friday.
Oh, I didn't know that's where it came from.
That's, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yes, it's an unlucky number because he died on the Friday the 13th of November. Something like that.
All right. Now can we get to the topic at hand?
Yes.
And the topic at hand...
Nope. In
No?
Italy, it's Friday the 17th.
That's the bad day?
Yes. They think it's the 17th. It's
Okay.
that's another odd prime, by the way. 13, 17
Yes.
would be the next odd prime.
Yes.
11, 13, 17, 27.
27's not a prime, is it?
No, it's not a prime.
All right. Thank you very much, Guthrie.
Okay.
We're going to talk today about mental models and conceptual models. What do you
Yeah.
think? You excited?
Yeah.
No, you're not. But I have
I'm
a story
very
for
excited.
you. I have a story for you.
No, I am excited. I actually think mental models are very cool and important, for the record.
So I was talking to someone the other day who teaches college students, okay?
Uh-huh.
And she was telling me a lot of times she teaches juniors and seniors in college. But in this particular class she was telling me about, she had mainly freshmen, right? 18, 19-year-olds. And this was a recent event. And she was asking them about, she teaches in the computer science department, and she was asking them how often I'm not sure how she phrased this, but it was something about, how often do they go on the internet on their phones. Now, the person asking this question, the professor asking this question, is a baby boomer. So she's older. And she asked them, how often do you use your phones to go on the internet, right? Or how often are your phones connected to the internet, or some wording like that. And everyone in the room said that they never connect their phones to the internet. Like that never happens. And she was very surprised by that. She said, "Oh, really? So you're just using your phone to make a phone call and text?" And they said, "Well, no, of course not. They're doing all these other things." And she said, "Well, that means you're connecting to the internet." And they were just totally confused. And these were not computer science majors. But it dawned on her that their mental model of, a phone and what you use it for and where all those things are was not the same as hers. So she had this idea that there's things you do on the phone that, have to do with a cell phone carrier. And then there's things you do on your phone that have to do with hooking up to the internet. And in her mind, that was like two separate but related things. And in their minds, none of that even existed. It's just a phone. And you just do things. And that really, the concept of the internet, we had this conversation after she told me the story, about that maybe for some people, maybe a lot of people, they don't really have a mental model or construct or concept of the internet versus not the internet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
So,
the internet's in a browser. But, and it makes a lot of sense. Have you heard of RCS?
no, I don't think so. What is it?
RCS. I don't even know. But there are two ways I want to attack this mental model, because it makes a lot of sense. So it's when when the person asked that, it's because the professor asked that. It's because when phones send a text message, or when phones send, have a phone call, it's operating. It's not going over the internet.
Right.
So carriers are starting to roll out for voice, and so there is a new standard of communication called RCS.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly what it is. It will eventually replace SMS.
Okay.
And all RCS is it's all the carriers have to buy in. And I'm sure technically I'm a little wrong, but it's essentially just it's just internet communication between phones. So you know how you can go on Apple Messenger or whatever your favorite computer, Facebook Messenger or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And you type things, you got emoticons and smiley faces, and you can see when someone else is typing. It's because because you're using the internet to transmit information back between the two people. RCS is simply that, but for text messaging. So instead of sending a simple SMS, which is this ancient, tech, the phone carriers are like they're just creating little, internet connections between you and another person.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little more complex with that, but that's essentially what it is. And they're doing the same with voice. So right now, if you're on AT&T, when you make a phone call, you know how it sounds different than if you're on a Skype call?
Yeah.
You know how it sounds crappy?
Yeah.
That's because it's operating on AT&T's old Edge network. So because Edge is 2G, and then there was 3G, and there was LTE, which is the 4th gen. Yeah. So AT&T just uses their old Edge network to just push phone calls around, and they encode the heck out of the calls, so that they're teensy tiny. And so what I think Verizon's already started doing this. I'm sure AT&T will follow. Basically, they're now just using LTE for everything. So they take your call that goes to another phone, they turn it into a digital internet-based IP, like a Skype call, and then they transmit it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so then the quality is really good. So they're calling it voice advanced, or I don't even know what.
Right. But really, it's just putting the voice message over the internet.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, right? So why should now the reason that carriers have this ancient kind of legacy tech when it comes to phone calls and text messages is because they have to have systems that work when the internet is down.
Yeah.
So if you think about emergency responders, police stuff, like there are things that they have to do that is not the internet, and so they have already an infrastructure that is not internet based. But it makes a lot of sense for them to, of course, when you text someone, why shouldn't it just, what does your phone number even mean anymore? Right? It's just a gateway to get you information from the internet.
Well,
so their mental model of this is the internet and this is not the internet is already starting to change. That was already
starting to change, and I think that's interesting. And we can talk about the in design. We talk about mental models versus conceptual models, and so I just wanted to take some time today to talk about this idea of a mental model, because the mental models are really important. And if you want, well, they are and they aren't, I guess. I mean, there is a whole mental model about, what all the stuff you just talked about, that in a way might not be important if you just pick up the phone and you push on you touch an icon on the screen, and then you do something, based on what that app is. And so in that case, you have a mental model of a phone and apps and pictures on your screen, and that's the only mental model you need. And then the conceptual model is, so I guess I got to back up. the difference between a conceptual model and a mental model. Guthrie, do you know what the difference is?
A mental model is with mentals.
Uh-huh.
The
No, really, do you
conception
know?
model is with concepts.
No, that's not the difference.
I know
No?
what a mental model is.
Tell me what a mental model is.
I have an idea of how something should work.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
a mental model is.
Well, by the way, you should know that these definitions that we're talking about what a mental model is and what a conceptual model is, these are not universally recognized. I'm looking over at my bookshelf now. You'd think I'd be able to find my book on my bookshelf, wouldn't you? Hold on.
Maybe. I don't know. How am I supposed to know where?
I found it.
I mean,
I just reorganized my office this week, so it wasn't where I thought it was going to be. Okay, I'm rifling through my book. You want to hear the rifling? Can you hear that?
I can. It sounds very pleasant.
An actual book. Because I just wanted to look up a little bit about the history of mental models. Now, mental models are there's some people who have been talking about mental models for a couple of years in a different way than I do, and then in a different way than I think the rest of the world does, and that's okay. But I like to use the definition and idea of it that's been around for a longer time. So I had to refer to my book for some information. So the first person, this is from, how should I do the promo? I am now reading from 100 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People. One of my books on page 72. And it's thing number 31. The first person to talk about mental models was Kenneth Craik, C-R-A-I-K, in his 1943 book. Can you imagine?
That's a long time ago.
The Nature of Explanation. Shortly after writing about mental models, Craik died in a bicycle accident. And the whole idea of mental models went dormant for many years. And it reappeared in the 1980s when two books were published with the title Mental Models, one by Philip Johnson Laird and the other by Deidre Gentner. The best history I have found about mental models as they relate to software and usability is a 1999 article by Mary Jo Davidson, Laura Dove, and Julie Welts called Mental Models and Usability. And I have a link for that in the book. So a mental model is here's a definition I like, there's a story about this quote. I'll tell you too. A mental model represents a person's thought process for how something works, i.e., a person's understanding of the surrounding world. Mental models are based on incomplete facts, past experiences, and even intuitive perceptions. They help shape actions and behavior, influence what people pay attention to in complicated situations, and define how people approach and solve problems. So that's kind of the definition I've always liked. Now, that quote right there, I don't know where it comes from. That's my problem. And this has been a real problem for me. I have it in the book, and in the book I say that this is one of my favorite quotes from Susan Carey, C-A-R-E-Y, 1986 journal article called Cognitive Science and Science Education. However, the problem is, when I went back and looked at that journal article after writing my book, that quote is not in that paper.
Okay.
So I don't know where I got it. And then I contacted Susan Carey, and I said, Dr. Carey, I got this quote. I thought it was from your paper. I can't find it in the paper. Did I just, misquote the journal article? Like, is it in another journal article? And she wrote back and said, that sounds like something I would say, but I have no idea. So I have searched everywhere. And the only place you can try, but you know what you're going to find?
What?
You're going to find everyone else referencing me.
Can you hear? Okay, can you?
But they won't reference me. You'll find it. There's a book. You're going to find a pamphlet on conservation in which this appears. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You want me to say this whole thing?
Yes.
On the air while we're recording.
Yes.
A mental model. Now we'll get to hear him typing.
Yep. Clackety way.
Represents. How come we can't hear you typing?
Well.
A person's, with an apostrophe, a person's thought process.
That's it. That's fine.
For how something works.
Hold on. That's good. That's good.
Is that enough?
Well, you can give me one more. A thought process. Do you have any more?
Yeah. For how something works. Try that. Little experiment in internet searching.
Anyways, okay, so do continue.
I'll continue. All right. While
I'll
you're
keep,
looking at, so you're not paying attention because you're task switching.
What? No, I'm.
So the idea is that
wait.
we all.
When did you write your book?
When did I write my book?
Yeah.
You think I'd know this from memory, but I've written a lot of books.
Just give me a ballpark.
I'm going to look it up. I have the book right in front of me. It has a page where it says when it was written. 2011.
Oh, that's pretty good.
All right, I'll keep talking. So the idea of a mental model is that we have this construct in our heads about how something works, and no matter what, we might have a mental model of the internet or of our cell phones or of we might have a mental model of.
I found it, by the way.
You did not.
Yeah, sure.
What did you find?
Well, wait. What's the whole quote? A mental model represents a person's thought process for how something works.
I.e.
Yeah. I found it.
Where is it from?
It is the Center for Research on Environmental Decisions.
No, they took that from me.
But this happened in 2009.
I know, but I wrote about it before 2011. I had it on my blog post at like 2008. Yeah, no, they lifted that actually without attribution. I want to mention. You got to keep looking. Every reference I have found is lifted from me. I have not found anything not lifted from me. All right, I'm going to keep talking. Plagiarism is rampant. So we have these mental models, and they affect how we interact with technology. So let's see. I'll give you another example. Guthrie, you've switched from like iPhone, iOS to Android, right?
Yes. That was I had an iPhone 3GS. I've been on Android for many years now.
So when you'd made the switch, was like, did you have any moments of, oh, what is that? How do I do that? Or was it seamless experience?
No, there were definitely hiccups here and there.
And the reason is that you had a mental model of how you do this or how you do that or how you go back or how you open an app or how you anything. And, the Android phones don't work exactly like the iPhone does. And what you were having to do was adjust your mental model. So we talk about mental models as being what's in your head, but then we talk about conceptual models. All right, so stop your searching for a minute. Do you know what a conceptual model is?
No.
So conceptual model is the construct that the thing displays to you. So the mental model is in your head. But when you use, for instance, an Android phone, it's presenting to you a whole world of how things work. And it's presenting that to you through the screen and the icons and the controls and all of that. And that's a conceptual model. So someone had to design that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And whatever, any software you use or any product you use, it has a conceptual model. Now, sometimes...
You'd have like a menu button, so you'd know that you want to press that, and then a menu would pop out. Would be a conceptual model.
That's part of the conceptual model.
Part of it.
Yeah. I mean, the conceptual model is the whole thing.
Okay.
You know, like, let me see if I can think of a different example. Everything has a conceptual model. You get in an elevator and there's a bunch of buttons. And, you have a mental model of how buttons work in an elevator, and the elevator probably, the conceptual model of how the buttons are arrayed and what they say and where they are, it probably fits pretty well because they don't want to deviate too much from that. Otherwise, you won't know how to get to your floor, right? So the conceptual model is the visual and tactile presentation to you that hopefully allows you to easily figure out what you're supposed to do with this thing.
Right.
And sometimes things have, a real good example is if anyone out there has ever switched from, like, let's say we do a lot of video editing, and we've switched over the years from ScreenFlow to Final Cut Pro to Adobe Premiere. And whenever you switch, you're like, right? I mean, there's a way in this software somewhere to export the file, or there's a way to do color balancing. It's got to be there. But the way you do it, and, does it have layers, and, is there a timeline? That's all conceptual model stuff that they've created and they're presenting to you. And if the conceptual model they're presenting to you doesn't match the mental model you have about how this thing should work, then it's going to be very hard to use and hard to learn. That's what your impression is going to be. In fact, the term that people will say when there's a mismatch between a conceptual model of the product and the mental model they have in their head, the thing they'll say is, it's not intuitive. I always find that phrase so interesting. What the heck does that mean? But that's what people say. It's not intuitive. And what they're really saying when they say that is, my mental model does not fit the conceptual model you are showing me. But people don't say it that way. They just say, it's not intuitive. So the more of a, mismatch there is, the harder the product will be to learn and use. Now, sometimes, and a lot of the time these days, we design a conceptual, you purposely design a conceptual model. Sometimes it just appears. In the old days of software, nobody was doing conceptual model design. They weren't thinking that much about, what is the user's expectation of how this will work? And, how should we display it and design it? They were just, whatever was in the underlying technology and database would float up to the top. I called it bubbling up conceptual model. So it just wasn't well designed, and you could tell. There was no thought put into what the conceptual model should be, how things should be displayed and what the actions should be so that it's either A, easy for the user to connect it to the mental model they already have, or B, easy for the user to say, I got to create a new mental model. Sometimes the product is so different and your conceptual model is so unique and new that you decide, we're not going to match the old mental model. Smartphones were that way, right? When they first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Yeah.
wasn't any sense trying to make it like.
Do you remember the first time you used a touchscreen?
Yes, but you don't, not on a phone. What do you mean? The first time I used a touchscreen? I used a touchscreen ages ago. But, I was involved in all the experimental stuff. You mean the first time I used a touchscreen on a phone?
Or no, any touchscreen. And it changed your whole mental model of what a screen was.
It did. It was really.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like I remember the first time I used an iPhone, and I was like my whole mental model of how you interact with a device was forever changed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember when I first used a graphical user interface.
Yeah.
How about I remember when I first used a mouse?
Well, you know what the best thing is?
What?
In the near future, there will be kids who will never have a memory of when they first used a mouse.
Yeah.
They won't use mice.
They won't use mice. Apparently, one of the things that's happening now with younger generations and mental models and use of technology is people are reporting, being in a restaurant or a coffee shop and there's music in the background. And toddlers will yell out, "Alexa, play Let It Go."
Horrible.
It's true, though, because they want to change the music. And at home, that's how you change the music. And it doesn't work in the restaurant. But
these bratty kids.
no,
they're going to grow up wanting everything
model.
at their beck and call.
And
you snap your fingers and the world just changes.
They swipe TVs.
I know. Everyone knows that they swipe TVs.
All right. So if you want to create a product that is easy to use and easy to learn, you have two choices. Choice one.
Hire us.
What? Hire us. That's a good choice. I hadn't thought of that one. You could do that. No.
That's funny.
Okay. You can either take the time and energy to learn what their mental model is. Well, you got to do that anyway. Learn what their mental model is and then design your product to fit their mental model. Or decide that you're going to create a brand new conceptual model for your product that will not fit their mental model. But then you have to figure out how to teach it to them quickly.
Right.
So that they get it really fast because it's brand new. And also so that they realize, oh, wait, I thought this was going to be like XYZ, but it's really not. So then they'll just, not try to keep applying the old mental model. One of the worst things you can do is have a product that's kind of like the old one they're used to using, but kind of not. And that's like the worst thing, because then they keep trying to apply the old mental model, but the old mental model isn't going to work. And that's when people can get really frustrated. You're actually better off making something so different that they know they can't use the old mental model. Or, really, really matching up with their mental model. So you didn't find this quote, did you?
No, it's because you made it up. Or like you typed it wrong. Like there's something that's
it's really confusing to me. I may have to. I'm not kidding. I tried for a lot of hours and then I gave up. But I'm gonna go. I might go back to that on some dreary winter day when you and I have nothing to do. Maybe we'll try some more. So if anyone out there wrote that paragraph,
let me try.
Please write into me.
Let me try one more.
I guess we could read everything Susan Carey has written.
No, give me the quote one more time.
The whole thing?
I think I can find it. A mental model represents a person's thought process for how something works, i.e. a person's understanding of the surrounding world.
You want me to give you another sentence?
Mental models which are based on often incomplete facts.
No, not which. Mental models are based on incomplete facts.
No, I'll just take the first sentence then. Just because I have it
Maybe you should
here.
take the second sentence.
I just have it. I have it.
All right. So when you're done with that, I have a question for you. So hurry up, because our listeners are waiting. So I'll talk while you're doing that, just to fill the on-air time.
You don't have to. I'm here.
Oh, well, I have a question for you.
Yeah, cool. Ask away.
Could you describe? Can you think of a product you have used in which it had a poor conceptual model and did not fit with your mental model of how it should work?
Oh yeah, probably.
I mean, can you think of one?
By the way, I just I used QText to check for plagiarism.
Yes.
And it didn't find any. So anyone who's using QText, clearly it does not work.
QText, are you listening?
Oh my god, that was horrible. I was trying to for like plagiarism checks, and then and then it would tell you, be like, oh, this was in this paper.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
No. Okay.
Sorry, I don't think it's gonna work, but I tried.
A little reverse engineering there.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have a particular product in mind that you can think of?
That's the problem. Not off the top of my head.
You're not?
Okay. I'm sure. I kind of do. Yes, sure.
What?
So I use an Android phone for everything, right?
Yeah.
And I was using an iPhone.
Yeah.
And I was like in Google Maps or something. I don't even remember what program it is. So, and I don't want to slander the integrity of Google Maps. I was in some sort of Apple, app. And I was like I looked up something and I wanted to go back to the search menu.
Yeah.
On Android, there's a back button. So when you want to go back a level, you just hit back. And here but on iOS, there's no back button.
Yeah.
And I was looking for how do I get back to the search? I literally didn't know where to go. And it turned out you had to swipe from the side to show a menu, and then you could go back out.
Yeah, so their conceptual model was not fitting your mental model.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of the usability problems that's come from that, either that mismatch or just a really, really poorly designed conceptual model. So the way that you design, by the way, a great conceptual model is you have to start by, this is going to sound radical, you have to start by understanding your target audience. But you do. I mean, and one of the, I think sometimes people think, because, you'll hear user-centered design, you need to find out about who your users are, your target audience, you have to know about them. And I think sometimes people go through, sometimes people don't do it at all, but sometimes they go through the motions of that, Okay, we're going to create personas, and we're going to create scenarios, and then we're going to do, define some task analysis. And because someone told them they had to do that, but they don't understand why they're doing it. And to me, the whole reason for doing all that user research stuff is so that you understand the user's mental model and can then go to the next step of conceptual model design and put that in, so then you use that information. Okay, here's the user's mental model, and you use that to make decisions about navigation and information architecture and something called objects, conceptual objects that are probably the toughest thing we have in our UX curriculum for people to understand. And flow, the basic flow, and that's all based on the user research you did, which you did because you wanted to understand the user's mental model for how they think this should work. Then the other thing I wanted to mention about mental models and conceptual models. So if you have that situation where you want to you're going to create something really different that doesn't match their mental model. And remember, I said you have to figure out a way to let them know. That, I think, is the role of can be the role of tutorials and training and little explainer videos, right? I mean, that's what it does. When you watch a little video, for the product, here's how. Let's say you were telling me yesterday about an app for grocery shopping.
Yes.
That you really like.
Yes. No. Some free pub. Oh my God.
Free publicity. And these are not our clients or anything. So.
The Bring ! App.
Yeah, it's such a strange name.
Well, it's made in Switzerland, so I don't know. Maybe it's a translation thing.
Okay, so if any of the Bring guys are listening, you can contact us and we're giving a shout out to your app. So this is an app that does what, Guthrie?
So what you do is you create different shopping lists. So like I have one for my own house, and then you can the app. You share the app with your friends, and so
you could share it with your spouse or something.
Whoever you want, and you have different lists, and then different people are in different lists. So if I'm, so in theory, if you're going to a party, someone who's hosting the party would create, hey, we need chips and salsa and beer and guacamole and whatever it is, right? And then invite a bunch of people, and then they each person would check off what they're going to bring, so then you can see what's still remaining. Or in the case that I like to use it, so like if I'm going to cook, I have my grocery list. But if we're like, hey, let's make pizza tonight, right? I can share it with whoever is going to come over and make pizza, and then if they go to the store, I can get it. In your case, right? So how many times have you bought milk,
come home with
and then
milk,
your
and then
spouse
my husband
is
comes
also
home with milk?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And so you have a common grocery list, and so whoever is going to the store can just look at the list and then check it off. And then either person can add things to the list too. So if you're at home, you're like, oh, I need some milk. You just put it on the common list, so everyone knows what's on there. So it's just kind of smart.
Yeah. Now, was there when you signed up for it? Was there any little video or anything that explained it?
I don't know. I never watched those.
Killing my point. Thank you, Guthrie.
Was I supposed to?
You're supposed to say, yeah, there was this little video and it was really useful and I watched it and then I understood how it was going to work.
No, I don't really do that. But I'm the kind of guy who doesn't read manuals either.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing too, because I think there are individual differences in how much tolerance people have for a mental model not matching a conceptual model, or for a fuzzy mental model, or for not having a mental model, And I think there are some people for whom that, I'm about to use this thing, or, assemble this piece of furniture, or, use this software or use this app, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but that's okay. That's kind of fun. It's like a little game. And there are other people who are like, okay, I don't, you got to explain it to me first. I'm lost. I'm uncomfortable with being lost, right?
Yeah.
So there's a different individual differences in how much people are willing to put up with that, and also probably some of it, context specific. So, if your friend is having a medical emergency and you have to figure out what to do or what hospital to take them at, this is not the time to have a mismatch between a mental model and a conceptual model for whatever app you're using to find the hospital, right?
Right.
So it's context too. But I think there's also, coming back to how we started this conversation, I think there are generational differences too. I know there are generational differences in mental models, right? We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
So it sounds like my professor friend had noticed or observed a difference. You know, people not really getting that there's stuff you're doing that's, quote, on the internet and stuff you're doing that's not on the internet, and that there's a distinction that they just, had never really thought about or experienced. And maybe that distinction is becoming unimportant unless you're down in the weeds of the, engineering of, do we send the voice over the this or that, right?
Right.
I mean, maybe are we at the point where it just doesn't, people don't need to know? It doesn't matter? What do you think? The regular person walking around does not need to know when they are on the internet versus when they're not on the internet?
Are there instructions to turn on a light switch or plug in?
I know, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Plug in something
I mean,
into
the
a wall
electricity
outlet?
is just on, right? I usually stop and think about, now I'm going to do this task without electricity. This is a task that does not require electricity. This is a task that does require electricity, right? I mean, we don't have to go turn the electricity on.
Yeah, right.
Right? We certainly notice when the electricity is off, but otherwise we kind of don't notice it, right? It's just in the background, ubiquitous. So I guess...
I think so. I think it's just because every single computer program uses the internet. The number of programs that actually don't have any connection to the internet, even at like an authentication level, are very, very small.
There's still some.
Like what? I mean, I know there's a lot of legacy stuff, but like...
Yeah, I mean,
stuff that's come out in the last 2 years.
Oh. Well, I was thinking about, you can use a spreadsheet without going on the internet.
You can't. Google 365 requires activation over the internet. Or sorry, Google. Office 365, which is... So when the Excel we use requires our computer to be connected to the internet to authenticate our version of Office.
But I can use... Really?
Yeah. Now, you might be able to activate it over the phone or something.
Really?
But that's... Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about installing or just using? I mean, if I'm on that...
Installing.
Installing. But I'm talking about using. If I'm on an airplane and I'm not hooked up to the internet, I can put things into a spreadsheet or type on my word processor. Right?
Yes. There are offline modes, sure.
Does anyone use the term word processor anymore? I just used it.
No. I don't think so. Because that never made any sense. Because let's decode that phrase. Word processor. What is the processing that's happening with the words?
I don't know. That's what they were called. Do you know what a word processor was?
Yes.
What?
So you had your what? Now don't laugh at me.
I'm already laughing at you.
Isn't it like an electronic typewriter?
Keep going.
So you had typewriters.
Right,
where you put in paper and you hit the key and it made a little thing on the paper.
And they weren't plugged in.
Yeah. But then there were
electronic...
You know what they were
called?
Typewriters.
Manual typewriters eventually. But yes, they were initially called typewriters.
So, and then came electronic typewriters.
We have one of those, a manual one in our attic.
Everyone has a manual typewriter somewhere.
Oh, okay.
You have a typewriter in your attic?
A manual typewriter, yeah.
People collect those. Is it some sort of famous one?
Yeah. What's the famous typewriter?
I don't know. Is it worth like $200,000? You have like a limited edition Like,
I don't know. Should I go check?
Yeah.
It's pretty old. Okay, I'll go check that out.
I
when
think
we're done
Tom
here.
Hanks produced a
Yes.
whole doc about
Yes.
him and his weird
He
typewriter
did.
collection.
It's great. I loved it. All right. Then you had
You've seen it?
Yes.
Oh my god. Of course, you do have a typewriter in your attic, so. Okay, so then
then
after
there were
typewriters,
electric
typewriters, which I personally never really understood, but I suppose it makes the actuation a little more solid.
You mean why you needed a manual?
Yeah.
An electric?
Yeah. Like
It allowed you to go faster, and it would do an automatic carriage return.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so that's real nice. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know what a carriage return is, on a typewriter, each time you type, there's a carriage that pushed over one slot. So that's why because otherwise the characters would just print over each other in the same place because the paper's not moving. You need where it hits on the page to move it by a consistent amount. But once you hit the end of the page, you need
to get
something
back to the beginning, but on a new line.
And to get back to the other line. So
So there was
electric
this
typewriter.
metal lever, and you would
Yeah.
pull it down and push it over, and that was the carriage, and you were doing a carriage return.
Yeah, so an electric typewriter, once you got to the end of a line, it knew it was at the end of a line using standard paper and would
No, it didn't know. You still had to press the button.
You still had to press the button. Oh, but
But it
was,
would
at least it was
move
at
it
least a button.
for you.
Yeah, so I guess that's the difference. Anyone who's ever listened, who's driven a car
Yes.
without power steering,
Yeah. Oh.
or like if the power steering has ever gone out, or even a much older car, like so the way power steering works, I mean these days if you buy a new car, when you turn the wheel, it's basically a video game. That wheel turn is turned into an electronic signal that the car then uses to change the hydraulic pressure.
Well, I was going to use the example of driving a stick shift versus an automatic. Anyway, enough on metaphors.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We were talking about electric typewriters. Then there were word processors.
Then there were word processors, no screen, right?
That is correct. There was no screen.
No screen. So I am right, at least in some capacity.
Well, no, there was a screen. No. You're wrong. There was a screen. I mean, otherwise, what would it be doing? There was
I don't know. I don't know how these things work.
Yeah, there was a screen, and you typed. It was like a computer. It was like using.
How is it not a computer? That's what I guess. That was my confusion. Like I
It
understand
was
an
a
electronic
computer,
typewriter,
but we didn't call it a computer.
but it was just a computer.
It was, but the only thing it did was. All right, let me ask you a question.
Look, when you go to the mall and they have the computer that's like, where would you like to shop today? And you like click in it, and like the only thing that computer can do is run the mall application, but it's still a computer.
Fine. So if you're going to use a computer, and the only thing it does is you use Microsoft Word. Is that correct?
I've used many versions of Microsoft Word.
What do you call that program?
Microsoft Word.
What do you call that class of programs?
Word editing software. I would call. I mean, I don't have a great. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'd call it a word processor. I'm not saying
because we didn't
wouldn't.
have the
enough
word
to do
software was not in. You didn't have software.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what software was,
Can we all just say how dumb software is too?
and you didn't know what a computer was, so you had to call it something, and
soft
it was
was.
called a word processor.
I think I would call it. I would think a word editor. You know.
That might have been better.
Yeah.
And maybe they would have sold more.
Yeah. I mean, I get it because there was a computer processor in it,
Yeah.
but
All right. So let's wrap it up. I think we should wrap it up. I do want to remind people, Guthrie, that since we've been talking about conceptual models, we have a whole course
yes.
on conceptual model design, and it's part of our curriculum for the for the what we call the UX bundle. So if you're interested in learning more, you might want to check out our conceptual model design course. And if they wanted to check out any of our courses, Guthrie, where would they go?
That would be courses at...
No.
Courses dot.
Yeah.
theteamw.com.
Courses.theteamw.com. We have all these online video courses. Conceptual model course is one of them. Hey, you know what else I want to mention?
What?
That's new from last week to this week. We have put all of our... we have 2 what we call fundamentals courses.
Hold on. I gotta stop you right here.
Why? Why?
Because I'm pretty sure that there were word processors that did not have screens.
There were word processors that had really little screens that showed you 3 lines.
What is the... Like, no. Oh my God, it's a tiny little screen.
Yeah. Do you see it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm looking at the Xerox 6016 memory writer.
Yes, I remember the memory writer because I have a good memory.
That's amazing that you remember the memory writer.
I used these things.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, no, it's like it doesn't have a screen, but it has like a tiny little like calculator
little built into
LCD right there.
Like it'd be easy to miss. Yeah,
LED
I remember
screen.
those. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it does have a screen. Yeah, okay. My apologies.
You're forgiven. Okay, so Guthrie, between last week and this week, we did something.
Yes, we
What did we
updated
do?
some older things.
No, that's not what we did.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, then you should just say what you have in there. We did do that. That was like last week.
We took our Brain and Behavioral Science Fundamentals course and our User Experience Fundamentals course. And we put both of those courses up on YouTube.
Yeah. Yes. So we have
Yeah.
the Team W channel. If also, let me just try to see if this works. So if on YouTube you search User Experience Fundamentals, God, I hope we show up.
Do we? That doesn't sound good. Not really.
Yeah, I see about the UX. It's coming up third about the UX Experience Fundamentals free online video, which is not exactly the same.
Anyway, so where should they go? They should just go to the Team W channel.
Yeah, so if you go, if you just, yeah, we have, we'll put some links up to. I mean, you can always get it at courses@theteamw.com. This is so UX. Oh, I know. That's why. Did you business question while we're on the air?
While we're online.
On the YouTube tags, did you also include user experience fundamentals?
Probably not.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go fix the tags, everyone.
Yeah, because if you Google UX fundamentals, then it shows right up.
Yeah. All right, I'll go fix the tags.
So you know what? We should change our titles from UX fundamentals to user experience parentheses UX fundamentals.
So sorry that you guys have to listen in.
No, this is
we
good.
Put together
we can workshop
our to-do list here.
We'll take calls if anyone wants to workshop some SEO.
Well, no, that we'll get lots of calls on.
No, I get enough SEO spam as it is.
All right. So, we need SEO, obviously. So we will go fix that. But look for the Team W channel on YouTube, and you can go check out those free courses. And thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions or any ideas or want to tell us about your experience with word processors, you can email us at
info@theteamw.com.
Thanks, Guthrie. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.